to reflect upon an extraordinary fact, that over the last 50 years, the number of parents refusing to vaccinate their children in Western Europe and the United States has grown dramatically. And the consequence of that refusal to vaccinate their children is the return of deadly diseases in Western Europe and the United States at levels we've not seen in generations. Doctors tell the parents the drugs are safe. The parents increasingly ignore the doctors. Why is that? Well, as the New York Times put it at the beginning of the year, there's a huge trust gap between parents and public health officials right now. Why is there a trust gap? They claim this is safe, but these claims are made in a certain context, a context defined by what the public understands science to be, and that context has a character increasingly affected by money. Here's just one example. This is a drug, Activase. You're instructed by this advertisement that if you choose to reperfuse, you should reperfuse with Activase. Now, you might be puzzled by the word reperfuse. It's not because your English is poor, it's because there's no such word as reperfuse. But put that aside for a second. If you choose to reperfuse, they want you to do it with this drug, Activase. Activase is a drug that deals with what we would call strokes, what the industry now wants to refer to as brain attacks. This drug was studied in 1998 by the American Heart Association. The American Heart Association concluded that they would support the drug, but there was one doctor who dissented from that conclusion. Yet when the report was published in 2000, the dissent was omitted from the report. Indeed, the doctor's name who had written the dissent was removed from the list of doctors who had reviewed the drug. And then it was discovered by an enterprising journalist with the British Medical Journal that Genentech, the company that sponsored the drug, had given the AHA $11 million, raising obvious questions. As this journalist put it, this recommendation may have been made in the true spirit of unbiased scientific inquiry, but the appearance of dispassionate analysis was eroded by large donations from a drug company. This is just one example of the context within which people understand public health recommendations raising doubts caused by perceived conflict between the experts and the industry. As the United States Congress House Oversight Committee put it, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration standards defining conflicts of interest are ridiculously broad. The CDC has virtually no standards because all committee members automatically receive annual waivers, meaning they can sit on a committee reviewing a drug and receive money from the drug company whose drug they are reviewing. In one case, $250,000 paid by a drug company to a doctor who was reviewing their drug. That context raises doubts, and those doubts feed a deadly need. Here's Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of the late Senator.
But the science is clear. What happens is, I read the science at first, and there's literally hundreds and hundreds of studies that connect thimerosal to these disastrous neurological disorders. Then I talked to the scientists, then I went and I talked to the federal bureaucrats who are defending thimerosal, and I said, what are you relying on? And I looked at the science they're relying on, and I can tell you, Joe, it is so weak, and you and I have seen in legal practice with junk science, and we know what these phony scientists are who create
it happens in big tobacco.
Right.
It happens in big oil. This is happening in global warming. And now it's happening in a way that's impacting our kids' lives.
This is classic tobacco science.
Okay, that's the meme. Classic tobacco science. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., in my view, is wrong about the connection between mercury and autism. But the point is, the industry has given him the means he needs to destroy the trust that anyone has in the idea of vaccines as safe. Classic tobacco science, which we understand to mean corrupted science, weakening the trust parents have in science. Or think about